Today on Chainlinked, Harmony founder Stephen Tse joins to talk about Harmony's impact in a multi-chain world across DeFi, NFTs, and more. Plus, he'll talk about how empathy underlies building in Web3. Also, John Wolpert from the Baseline protocol joins to give a snapshot of Baseline's recent launch on the Baseledger L2 testnet and what it means for enterprises using blockchain. Chainlinked is a pocket-sized podcast series looking at the many applications of Chainlink blockchain oracles across global enterprise, the blockchain industry, and emerging tech projects. We break down the news and frame Chainlink technical innovations and integrations for any listener. My name's Dr. Andy Boyan. You can call me Andy. Hi, and I'll be your host. Harmony is a decentralized, high-throughput blockchain for storing assets, collectibles, building DAOs, and more by building smart contract applications. Harmony focuses on highly scalable applications across numerous industries, and they recently announced that Chainlink price oracles are available on the Harmony testnet for developers to begin building dApps with secure price feeds. Harmony founder Stephen Tse is with me today to talk a bit about Harmony's role in the Web3 space and where Chainlink and DeFi fit into their mission. Hi, Stephen. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, Andy, and thanks, Chainlink, and your community welcoming us.
It's great to have you. I love getting to know blockchain projects and founders and just see what you guys are building. Let's start right away. What differentiates Harmony as a blockchain?
Harmony is a scalable blockchain. We have sharding. We have something called on-chain bridges. We think focusing on really connecting with all the other blockchains so that all the asset governance identity can think about of really not just a distributed ledger, but working with many of the blockchain. It's going to be a strong differentiation for Harmony to be really working with different partners. We really want to make sure the bridge itself is also secure.
Speaking of secure systems, Harmony recently announced Chainlink oracles are live on the testnet. So what kind of applications are we going to see early on in the Harmony ecosystem that make use of secure off-chain data and computation?
Everything. Chainlink really touches everything, especially all the DeFi protocols. We are working with partners for lending protocols like Aave, Sushi. But I actually read through the 72 use cases that the Chainlink published, right? We're actually very excited for many real use cases for especially around the NFT and DAO. In particular, we have a new research paper called Wallets based on something like Google Authenticator. The 2FA authentication and multi-factor authentication is something also Chainlink has talked about with partners and hackathons that we have looked into, that this feed is going to be important not just for prices, but anything that really off-chain.
I was playing around on Harmony on your website and some of the dApps and things you have, and your DaVinci NFT marketplace is really smooth. It looks nice, like relatively easy to use and like sort through things. What are your kind of goals with that?
Yeah, I think it's really the long tail of community artists, musicians that's going to be amazing for NFT outside Ethereum. We know like any rock or any cartoon figures can sell for $100,000 on Ethereum NFT. And that's great. It's really going to drive all the FOMO as well as many people looking at it as from an auction and mainstream point of view. But what about any artist anywhere in the world that just really want to experiment with wherever the community want to be holding an asset? So really minting it beyond even 10 cents and actually having thousands of your personal social moments. That's what we call, whether with your friends or your community when you hold of events or like during the curation of your next milestones. It's really important for some platform like Harmony to help the long tails. When we say long tails, I just mean you have 1,000 true fans or 10,000 of your community, that it's not just about monetizing it, but capturing the moments and the culture among yours. Or even just a school, right? Having your students play with it. And that's what our early users are. So far, there are international artists that do like installation. We have a partner called Timeless that think about social moments with their fans, as well as more like a curated DAO. I think that's really where the innovation for the rest of the year to think about what will be the next million users coming on to buy NFT.
That school use case for NFTs is really interesting. I haven't thought about it before, but I've thought of NFTs as a ticket. But if you think of it as a ticket to a social club or to a sports club or to your grades or your class or whatever sort of thing that a school might want to make official. And so that when you go to the next school, it says, these are the things that I have expertise in, that I've graduated in, or have some credit in some way. There's just a lot of opportunity there that's really interesting. But talking about NFTs and art, of course, we're talking about culture. And as I was learning about Harmony this week, I couldn't help but notice that your internal culture is really interesting. You guys had this great video up on your website, and you talk a lot about your values and what you believe as a group who's working to build Harmony. Can you just talk for a little bit? Let us get to know you. Like, who are these people building Harmony, and what are kind of your goals?
Thanks for spending time really researching into not our project, but also you care about the culture. And I think this is the core of it. As you see from the name Harmony, we will really want to talk about how to bring people together, how to really have consensus, not just hopefully among the team, but from our community, but also have impact around our social values. What really hopefully attract our community is really the culture. I strongly think that there are all kind of technology, like you can easily fork it. You can even like have a product that actually very similar to your competitor. But culture is really what binds people together. So I will actually put culture first and the values that your community really care about, and then mission. These are the top three. In particular, we talk about the culture so that people understand that it's really about the human, that we just day-to-day work together. Talking about the radical ownership is a very good way to think about it.
Since you're Harmony, do you make team members sing together?
Sing together?
One of the things I noticed is there was a lot of talk about empathy. And how does empathy play a role in blockchain and decentralized systems? It's a really interesting value. A lot of blockchain is built on game theory and about, incentivizing greed to fairly balance out everybody. So empathy isn't a term that you hear a lot. So how do you see empathy working in terms of all this?
Many people forget why we started doing this, why we spent years on this. It's really that we still care about the people around us, if not the whole world. The empathy should really come back as what we put as our number one culture.
I think there's a ton of value in that, not only just as a general moral value to have empathy for other humans, but honestly, like as a builder and as somebody who's trying to build systems, tech systems, whether decentralized or not, is to think about different use cases that I might not personally use, but somebody else might use. And to have genuine empathy, like to actually find out, not to just guess how somebody might use that who's not me, but to actually find out and do research and have empathy and really learn about other people. I think that's a really noble goal.
Yeah, I really think we should not forget that, right? We are just so powerful with the technology. Even Vitalik reminds us that, right? The social impact and reasons beyond just total lock-up value, as well as trading activities, there are much more like human coordination problem that we can solve. And to talk about human, we have to think about listening first, showing the empathy to people that actually don't even know what this technology is.
Stephen, what a fantastic way to sum this up. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Andy.
Recently, we talked to Ave's head of institutional business about how large financial institutions are entering DeFi. But the enterprise space is quite a bit larger than just finance. So to follow up and get some more detail around blockchain for the enterprise, I brought John Wolpert on. John's been in the space for years and has helped co-found IBM Blockchain and Hyperledger, works at Consensus, and helped found the Baseline Protocol, which is a new standard for IT synchronization. He's got deep domain knowledge in databases and enterprise infrastructure, and is just a fun guy to have in a conversation. Good morning, John. How you doing?
Hey, it's great to be here.
But let's get right into it, though. You had a bit of a big announcement last week. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, on September 1, we announced that the Baseline Protocol is now growing up and has finished its standard work. In general terms, the Baseline Protocol is not a product or a platform or a coin or a token or a chain. It is a standard for IT synchronization over the internet, global IT synchronization. It happens to use blockchain technology and zero-knowledge proofs and a bunch of other cool stuff and oracles. Not for nothing, Chainlink was one of the founding contributors and supporters and sponsors of the Baseline Protocol standards body. The Baseline Protocol was a project of the OASIS standards body, which is behind SGML and MQTT and AMQP and all these internet standards. It is very much about using blockchain not as a database, but as a piece of middleware, as a common frame of reference that allows you to say, my record in my database, say SAP, is verifiably identical to your record in your database, say Microsoft Dynamics or NetSuite or Mongo or Snowflake, right? Whatever it is. Sometimes information systems need, especially between companies now in what we call verified multi-party workflows, need to be able to say, we have consistency for sure without putting it on some new, like a blockchain or a shared database, right? You want to say, no, I want my database, you want your database. But we need to know that these records are verifiably identical and that they change in a deterministic, verifiably identical way, right? So state changes. It's called an open project for Oasis, and that is that the standard is being done openly, and there is code, there is reference implementations that are also in open source in the baseline repo.
Can you help us get our minds around some of the use cases? I feel like a few years ago, it was supply chain. And now it seems like there's all different types of data that companies might want to share with each other or might not want to share with everybody. What are we talking about here?
Is a very specific, but horizontally specific use, which is, I don't want screw ups between me and my counterparties. It costs me money, right? Mm-hmm. I'm supplying Best Buy, say, or a retailer. Mm-hmm. And I get a call from their merchandising unit saying, hey, where's our shipment? It's got to go on end caps tomorrow. And I say, well, my record says that you should get it 2 weeks from now, as we agreed. And they say, I don't care what you say. Ours says that it's supposed to be here today. And if it's not here tomorrow, you don't have to do business with us anymore. Mm-hmm. That's kind of an expensive problem, right? Because I'm going to pay millions of dollars to try to get it, expedite the shipment, even if I can. And if I can't, then I've got make good. It's a horrible problem to have. And part of that is data consistency, right? Their system, their ERP system, is not in a state of consistency with mine. Now, that's not the only way things go wrong between companies, but you can imagine lots of disputes happen from that.
There are probably different schools of thought across different enterprises, but are you noticing in your conversations, are there dominant themes about how different enterprises are thinking about entering the space? Like, are they all R&D departments that are just trying to figure out proof of concepts and have, some budget that's just thrown to the wind and hopefully something emerges? Or are there like more clear divisions that have defined P&L? Or like you say, like, are they IT departments that are just trying to find a good way to cut costs? What stage are we in? Or is it possible to define a stage? Is it so broad?
To be honest, I think that there mostly has been in the enterprise space POC work, right? It's proof of concepts, and they get kind of stuck there. The fundamental tenet of using blockchains as some kind of magical database, I think, is wrong. And whether it's public or private, public blockchains are hugely valuable, as we've seen already, but not as a database for enterprise information, right? Don't use them for that. They're not really a good backend. They're sort of a way of making sure that backends don't do shenanigans. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what Baseline allows you to do. So I think we're going to see an explosion now of using blockchain in the enterprise. And unfortunately for the press, nobody's going to cover it because it's going to be boring, right? It's not, tokenize this or NFT that. It's going to be, some mid-level developer said, the easiest, cheapest way for me to make sure that I've got a proof that this machine and that machine are in a state of sync is Baseledger.
John, let's wrap up. Why don't you tell us where we can find you on Twitter? I'll make sure to have a link for it in the description, but if you can let everybody know where to follow you.
Sure. Twitter is just @JWolpert. Go to baseline-protocol.org. And we use Slack pretty heavily in the community. By the time of this airing, you'll be able to go in and sign up for different projects or different memberships or being able to join different meetings. If you want to be a core dev for Baseline, you can do that. It'd be great to have a conversation with your listeners. One thing that's really important to know is that October 1 through the 3rd, ETH Atlanta, ETHATL.com, is having a big hackathon. And it's going to be a really interesting event. There's a lot of luminaries there. Joe Lubin's going to speak, Paul Brody, and many others.
Cool. I'll make sure and get a link to that as well as Baseline Protocol and to your Twitter as well, John. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for coming and talking to me, man.
It's great to talk to you. Thanks.
Thanks for listening and being part of the Chainlink community. Now, please help me grow Chainlinked and the entire Chainlink ecosystem. Subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. It really does help the algorithm spread Chainlink podcast to more crypto-curious people. Next, follow me and Chainlink Today on Twitter. I'm @AndyBoyan, and you can get updates on this podcast and a whole lot more @Chainlink Today. There are friends helping distribute the pod. Finally, join the official Chainlink Discord and Telegram communities. Many community members, including myself, hang out there, so you can chat with me about what you want to hear more of on the next Chainlinked. Again, thank you for supporting the podcast by listening. I'll catch you next time.